Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And some of you might recognize the castle behind me. It's the Slane Castle. And this is for all of you rock and roll fans out there, because the Slane's Castle is a famous place for rock and roll concerts. This is because it has a natural, perfect location for it, where there's like a theater, and you have like a hill that is circular shaped, a conical shape, where the people can actually sit there and actually watch the stage as is going to be right in front of the castle in a very easy way, and they can actually fit 80,000 people here, which is quite a lot. But today we're not all about the Slane Castle and the rock and roll, but we are about the distillery. So let's get into the Slane Distillery. The history of Slane's Castle and the Slane estate, where the distillery is on, begins 1611 when a noble Scottish family emigrated from Scotland to Ireland and got into Slane's Castle. The family was known Conyngham, and this year was always in the hands of the Conyngham family, and the estate was, back in the days, it was stables and farm hands and all of that kind of stuff, and they built the distillery in here. But Slane Whiskey begins in the year 2008 when the son Conyngham, the son of Sir Henry Conyngham, actually wanted to make a whiskey, and together with his parents he actually made the dream true, and they brought out the whiskey in 2015 with Brown-Forman. In 2017 they actually opened up the distillery named Slane Distillery, and now they produce their own malt. And now let's get in and see how that whiskey is made. The ingredients at Slane are very nice, because they do have an estate, so they do have a river, the River Boyne, where they get a lot of good water from, and then they do have 1,500 acres to grow barley. And for their unmalted barley, they actually do use it just straight as it comes. Some of the barley also goes to the malters, and they get the malt back, and they also buy some malt from other Irish barley farmers, and in that form of malt. And they use a lot of their malt in malted state, but also in grain state. The malting process, you can see here, you have the grain, and then you have the steeping, where you put it into water, so the grain actually wants to grow, and then it grows, and during that process they change the starch into sugar through an enzyme process, and that makes it really, really sweet, which is good for alcohol production. In the end, it is grinded down into a coarse grist with a 6-roller mill, a modern one from Bühler. And this is very important, because you don't have to just grind down the malt, but also the unmalted barley. And therefore you have to do a lot of adjusting, and the unmalted barley has to be really cut down a lot further into nearly a flour. And so that's why they have to have a 6-roller mill, and they have a really modern process for that. The single malt is very usual, very easy. The process just goes into the Lauter Tun. The mashing and the lautering is done inside the Lauter Tun. Different waters, different temperatures, and like we used to know it from other single malt distilleries. The grain and the pot still is a bit more complex. The grain takes enzymes. You just have starch, you don't have the sugars yet. So what you do is you grind it down finer, and you bring it into the mash tun. You heat it up to 65 degrees-ish, and then you actually turn it and mix it, so all the starch is sheared off and gets diluted, and then broken down by the enzymes into maltose sugar. And this takes a bit of time. All these enzymes, that happens usually during the malting process, but as we don't have a malting process, we need to do it in the mash tun. This is really the mashing process. When we are ready, when it's sweet enough, we do have emulsion, means it has solids and liquids inside the paste that we have in there, and we pump it over to the Lauter Tun, and the Lauter Tun does the actual lautering, which is kind of a thieving action. That is a big thief at the bottom, and it takes out the solid materials from the liquid that is going to the fermentation. Behind me are the washbacks. The distillery has 3 of them, but they are actually planned for 7 of them. So this is kind of their bottleneck. So they could do 101 million liters of pure alcohol per year, but they are at 3/7 of that because they have only 3 washbacks. They are filled with 26,000 liters, so about 2 Mashtuns, and they ferment for 120 hours. This is really, really long, and this is really for the flavor. If you'd go for alcohol, you would go probably something like 40, 48. That is all for alcohol, because after that you have acidic bacterial reactions. A lot of acid is coming there, creating a lot of different flavors, and the alcohol strength is actually slightly going down, so your yield is actually reducing if you ferment that long. But they want to have these complex flavors, and they just take the reduction to 8% alcohol, which is kind of, I would say a low end to what I know from distilleries, what they produce. But it's not all about the alcohol, it's also a lot about the flavor. The Slane Distillery has 3 beautiful copper pot stills custom made for them. This here is the wash still with a constriction piece and 13,000 liters of volume, so half a washback. They run the wash still twice when they run once the intermediate still, which is the exact same as the wash still, and as also 13,000 liters of volume. And the last one is then the spirit still, which does the cuts and has a reflux bowl and is really there for the flavor. And this is where all the magic happens. And they do have to treat the malt and the grain differently, because they are just different kind of spirits that need to be treated differently. And they do actually have a third recipe, because the single malt that they produce and the single malt that goes into the blend, there's a malt part for the blend and a grain part for the blend, and that is actually, they have different requirements for the flavors within the blend than they have for the single malt, so they actually do change the recipe a little bit for that. And then we also do have a column still. The column stills were a bit of a challenge because they definitely didn't fit into the old heritage buildings, and so they had to build a new building for them, and they got restricted also by the Heritage Foundation because they were not allowed to build as high as you would want to for a column still, because it would change the whole architecture and the whole aesthetics of the estate. So what they did is they got a certain height, and what you can do with column stills is you can put them side by side and just connect top to bottom, and that functions as well as a really, really tall column still. So they have 6 of them connected to each other, but they are speaking of actually 2 stills. So the first 3 are stainless steel, which is the first stage, and then you have copper stills for like really the fine stage, and for the really the flavors, because that is what the copper is for. And so this is where also grain spirit is actually distilled, but they could also do a malt in here, but they still have to call it a grain. The distillery only has 3 different kind of casks. The one behind me is a sherry cask, big one from Jerez, Spain, and then we have 2 that look very similar. This here is a Tennessee whiskey cask. They use Tennessee whiskey casks. They're similar to bourbon casks. And then the last one is actually an American standard barrel, but it has never been filled. So this is a virgin oak cask coming from America. Same casks, but this one has been used with bourbon before, the other one not. And if you think, so okay, they only have like 3 different kind of casks to make their whiskey out, but think of this, you have a lot of different spirits. You have the single malt, you have the pot still or the single grain, and you have the second single malt for the blend, and then you have the column stills that can be used with malt, with grain, or with a mixture. So they do have a lot of variation they can put into the casks, and then you can also reuse the cask. You have a first fill bourbon that is totally different to a, let's say, third fill bourbon, or a virgin oak that has been first filled is also a lot stronger. And yeah, I don't know what you call a second fill virgin oak cask, or would you call it then an Irish whiskey cask? It's up for discussion. Put it down in the comments below. And yeah, so this is it with the production. Let's have a bit of that whiskey then. This was it with the production, and now we have a little bit of a tasting and interview with Dr. Gerard Cahill. Cahill, did I have that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben.
29 years within brewing and distilling, and you have a doctorate's degree. So what is it in? Is it in brewing?
Yes, I've been in brewing and distilling for 29 years, and my doctorate is in brewery yeast management. So I am a doctor of brewing yeast.
Yeast. Oh, okay. So you're really with the fermentation stage. That's your little baby.
Oh yes. Whether I'm brewing or distilling, the yeast is at the backbone of everything that we do. So very, very important.
Okay, I already do smell a bit of the of that stuff. I really love what you have here. It's just so beautiful, historic, and everything. So thanks for having us here.
No, you're very welcome, and delighted you could make it here, and happy to take you through everything that we do.
Okay, so I'm seeing we do have 2 new makes here. What are we having today?
Yeah, whilst we'll concentrate later on the blends that we have out in the market, we really wanted to show you what we're currently making. So our first new make is a single malt, or a malt whiskey, new make. And the second one we're going to taste then is pot still, which is a very traditional Irish whiskey as well.
Ah, okay, so these are like the 2 main ones that come. I think you do have a single grain as well.
Yeah. Everything that we make here is made with barley, so it's either malted barley or unmalted barley. So we make single malt, we make single pot still, and we make a grain whiskey. And we're the only distillery in Ireland making a grain whiskey from 100% barley, whether it's malted or unmalted. So it's a little bit special.
And what I also do love is like you have your own malt, or not your own barley, and you have Irish malt. Yeah, that is beautiful. Are we looking at distilling strength, barreling strength, or what are we looking at?
Here, whilst I'd love to give you the strength off the stills, which is at about 82% alcohol, I've actually cut it back to 50% alcohol.
Okay,
so the new makes here at 50%. If I dilute it much more, it's not maybe as special. So I've been kind and diluted it to 50%. So we can get a good sense of it.
50% is doable.
Yeah,
that is doable.
So in terms of our malt new make, we use 100% Irish malt, grown and malted in Ireland. We will put it through our brew house. We will make our wash and ferment it in wooden vessels. We only use wooden washbacks here. And we will ferment up to about 8% alcohol, and then we put it through our triple distillation process. So this will have been through our 3 separate stills to get you to about 82% alcohol. Yeah,
I like it. It's very, very fruity.
Yeah.
And it's I like the triple distilled. When you have the double distilled, you do have a lot of that apple, and you do have a bit of that apple fruitiness in there as well.
Yeah.
But this is I think, I'm not quite sure why, but it feels like a little bit like a maltiness in there as well.
We're really take care here. Our copper stills are handmade copper stills, and we have 3 separate stills there. And what we try to do is to make sure that we're not rushing the stills. So it will take us about 7 hours to complete a distillation in each one of these stills. So we get really good refinement of our spirit, but we also get really good copper contact. So I would be really disappointed if you found some flavors here that were sulfury, like egg or onion or cabbage or something like that.
No, that's
so
gone.
We take it nice and slow, make sure we get really good copper contact, and we get a very clean spirit. We also arrange our cuts that we get a lot of fruity notes. So we obviously take our heads off, but we get into our spirit collection quite quickly. And then, whilst I don't want to share our precise cuts with us, we aim to get the full complex flavour. We don't want a whiskey that's light and that doesn't have a good finish, so we run rather long to make sure we get the fruity notes at the beginning, but we also get the heavier, fuller, complex flavour.
Yeah, there is a mixture. You have a quite light note to it, fruitiness, light fruitiness as well. A little bit of a, I'm not quite sure how tropical that is, if it's like a watermelon or something, I don't know. But it's something light. It's not the typical citrus note or the typical apple note. It has, for me, it has like a really a bit of a tropical or something else. And
there's
fruit
fleshy fruit notes in there, like peach or apricot.
Yeah, something like that.
Well,
And a bit of a bready note, like a malty bready. I'm not quite sure. Something creamy or bready, something with flowery
and we treat our yeast very well. We watch our fermentation temperatures, so we want the yeast. Obviously, a lot of these flavors are produced by the yeast, and we want them to produce the maximum amount of fruity estery notes that they can, and that works really well for us as well. We don't want them stressed.
Yeah, I do have minimum of spiciness, or like more heftier the downwards notes. So yeah, so cheers.
Cheers.
Mm. 50% with works really well.
And there's lots of heat in there. There's some sort of almost spicy or hot notes in there as well.
But this tastes, so you have, in the taste I do have a lot of pears in there. And it feels like, what was it like? Like cooked apple pears, like what was it like a good porridge. Or something like, I'm not quite sure, or like, I don't know, it smells a bit, tastes a bit like grandma's.
Certainly the malt character is coming through as well. That's important for us, that we get that coming through. And the way we run our cuts, we want to get the fruity impression at the beginning, but also a nice long finish. So we know we're getting quite good fusel oils or higher alcohols coming in there at the end to sort of give us a full complex flavour.
Yeah, you start off with a lot of fresh fruitiness, and then you get into that maltiness, and I like it. But it's very Irish, very smooth. It's a bit dangerous. I mean, even for 0 years old, it's very, very round.
Yeah.
It's
very palatable in its own right, and obviously everything we're talking here is not peated. We don't have peated distillates here, which would add another layer of variation or difference to the whiskies as well. But for us, whilst it's well distilled and well refined, it's very pleasant. There is complexity to it, but it is a very round, smooth taste on its own before it's ever seen a cask.
Yeah, I think you can work with this really well inside the cask. You can add a lot of stuff, but I think with second fill or something, you can like keep it as well. So I think it's nice. I'm really looking forward to trying the real stuff.
Good. And one of the things that Alex Conyngham wanted to do at the very beginning, as he discussed it with his dad, what sort of whiskey do we want? They originally wanted something that was special in terms of flavour. It was complex, it was full, it was something you would really enjoy. And yet, in terms of the type of whiskey, or maybe even the price point of the whiskey, that it was something to enjoy with friends or family whenever you wished. It wasn't something to be locked away and only to be had once a year in special company and that. And in terms of delivering on that, it's important for us to deliver a full flavoured new make spirit, and then you will get an impression later on of actually all the work that the barrels do to give us that fresh flavour as well. So not almost being brave to have a full flavoured whiskey, as opposed to something that was okay, it's very nice but very almost bland. That was not something that was wanted at any stage. So that's why we've gone big in terms of our cuts to make sure we get fruity notes, but we also get depth of flavour, and you'll see that come out then as we see the matured samples as well.
So was one question burning on my fingers is, you have the festivals, and I was told there were like the big ones at 80,000, and I mean there are names on there which probably totally sold out.
Yes,
and
yes,
how is it? What's the distillery during your festival? Is it like people everywhere, or what do you do?
Everybody wants to come to Slane Distillery when there's a festival on. So people will arrange meetings. Oh, I can be there that week. Oh, that's the week of the concert. Oh, is it? So that's always interesting. The day before the concert, if we look at the last concert, which was Harry Styles, the day before that concert, there were a lot of special visitors in, key customers, key consumers, senior people from the Conyngham family, people from the Brown-Forman organisation. So there were 400 people through here the day before the concert.
Okay, that's even a lot.
Barry and the team looked after them really, really well. So it was really to build the excitement for the concert, but also to share this is what we've been doing since the last concert. And the distillery was only here for 2 concerts, Metallica, I think, and Harry Styles. Before that, it didn't exist. So it's a new era for the castle and for Slane, but at the concert there is huge excitement and there's big interest in, you're doing a distillery, you have a distillery in the lawns of the castle, which is really nice, and then so they're well looked after, and we make sure people have lots to eat, and that there is some music playing the day before as well, not the big bands but the other bands as well. And then on the day of the concert, it's friends and family of people who work in the distillery or help us, and key customers can come in and out of here during the day, out into the main concert area for the concert, and then come back in here to get a rest, maybe get something to eat, or some teas and coffees, as well as some fine beverages as well. And it's just really good crazy, if there's such a thing. Yeah.
So but you have like so the main concert can't come in here, but you have like a booth, or
you need a special wristband to get in here.
But you sell like cocktails and whiskey.
We would have a full bar out in the concert area as well, and cocktails. On the day, it's all about cocktails.
But it's Slane.
It's Slane cocktails.
It's Slane. Everything's Slane there. So but I think if you had 80,000 people from concert, this would be a bit of a mess in here.
It couldn't exist.
It couldn't exist. Okay, but good to know. So next up is like the pot still recipe.
And this is special because whilst we have our blended whiskey on the market, and then we have the batch strength as well, pot still is maturing away. It's 5 years old now. We are waiting for it to mature to exactly when we want to release it. So this is giving you a view into what we're making, but it's not currently on the market. But it will be in the coming years. It will be, and it will be released as a single pot still. And like all of the new make whiskey that we make, when it's made, it goes into sherry butts, it goes into American whiskey casks, and it goes into virgin oak casks. So each time we make batches of this, it goes into 3 separate casks. So the pot still then is not on the market, it's maturing, we have to be patient. But meanwhile then, we are looking at how it's behaving in the 3 separate casks to see what way are we going to blend this to give us our first pot still out on the market.
Is it? Are we allowed to know how much unmalted and how much malted is in there?
Absolutely not. No. The rules are in Ireland on pot still, because there are very clear rules. It must be more than 30% malted barley. And it must be more than 30% unmalted barley.
So we're somewhere between 70-30, so
somewhere there.
Somewhere in between, but the rest
we
is...
certainly have more unmalted barley in there than malted barley.
Okay.
And there's it's a very traditional Irish whiskey, and certainly the unmalted barley gives you other characteristics different from the malt. So you'll still get some nice fruity notes. We use the same yeast, for example, but you get a creaminess because of the unmalted barley, but you also get a spiciness like cracked pepper in there as well, purely because it's a different raw material. It's unmalted.
Okay.
Akin to like a rye whiskey, you get some of those characteristics.
But as it's a pot still, it's through the 3 stills.
Oh yes, true pot still, yeah. So both of these new makes have been through our copper stills, yeah.
Okay. Then cheers.
Cheers. Quite different. Mm-hmm. Can you get it covering your tongue? It's kind of creamy.
The beginning was much more sweet. Then I had kind of lots of pears, and now it's creamy and
It's a real smoothness. Oiliness sounds like a negative, but it's actually like a creamy, viscous sort of feel to it.
But I would say it's a bit heavier than the other one. This one was fresh, fruity, like you said, pears and not pears, peaches and a bit tropical in there. This one is a bit more classical with a lot more sweetness. Yeah.
It's a heavier distillate, and it's still triple distilled. The cuts we use on this is completely different from the cuts we use for our single malt, for good reasons. But so you can get, there are fruity notes there. There is a really creamy texture to it, but there is a heaviness, and there is in terms of higher alcohols or fusel oils, there is a good impression there. But at the end, there is this dry, peppery, cracked pepper kind of spiciness to it as well, or heat.
Yeah, but it takes some time.
Yeah,
it takes a little bit of time when you have the finish, and you do have a bit more spiciness to it. But it's very, very lovely and unspicy and very easy at the beginning. With the sweetness and the fruitiness and the creaminess. And
there is an earthiness to it as well. You're getting the raw materials coming through, but there's an earthy background flavour. It's kind of a heavier flavour. We would firmly believe that as we mature both of these whiskies in our 3 different cask types, that we would like to mature the pot still for a little bit longer, just to make sure that we maintain that complex, full flavour, but make sure then that we get a good impression from each of the barrels that we're using. So we wouldn't expect to release that as at the same age as we would release our malt whiskey.
The pepperiness just adds up, I would say. The first sip, I had very little pepperiness, but like I think I had 1, 2, 3 maybe, and it adds up. I can feel it now, very definite.
Yeah.
It really adds to what you had before. As you said, filling in the barrel. I was back there and I had a look at the barrel, and I was really confused because it was an American Standard barrel, and it was ASB. And the strange thing was I was walking around and looking for the bung, and I couldn't find it. It had just the bung on top. Usually you re-drill them and you have a bung on the side and on top. So is it like custom made, or what is it?
We are very fortunate. We're part of Brown-Forman. I work for Brown-Forman, and we're really lucky in that the virgin oak casks that we get are made specifically for Slane. Not for Ireland, for Slane. Okay. So what we asked them for is we wanted casks that were heavily toasted and lightly charred. For Jack Daniels, the charring recipe is different. They go for a heavy char. So we wanted lightly toasted, heavily toasted, lightly charred. And so those casks are not only bunged correctly for Ireland, but they are actually charred to our recipe and our specification.
But for the Tennessee whiskey cask that you also use, they do have the bung on the side as well.
Oh yes. So the virgin oak casks are made for us and shipped to us, never having had whiskey in them, and we get these wonderful flavours from them. The seasoned casks we get, or the AB's American casks that we get, are actually Jack Daniels casks, so they're ex-Tennessee whiskey casks, only Jack Daniels, and they come to us. So they would have been standard Jack Daniels casks, so they have the bung on the side. We get them then re-drilled, so they have 2 bungs there as well. But we always use ex-Jack Daniels casks. We don't use other bourbon casks, whether inside Brown-Forman or outside. And we just really like that flavour contribution that we get from the Jack Daniels, which is really good for bringing on our flavour.
Yeah, I guess when you have like a Woodford that is like really old or something, that I would probably have a different taste. But Jack Daniels has I think, enough cask to have a really straight and consistent taste.
And one of the flavours we would chase there is there's a whilst we talk about esters and fruity notes and flowery notes, there's also then a sort of a banana flavour coming from Jack Daniels that's inherent in their flavour. So we're chasing that to add not even a fruitiness, but a sort of a sweet fruit or a pureed fruit, sort of sweetness to that, because that then will counteract some of the wood spicy notes that we get from the virgin oak casks as well. So all the time we're looking at balancing and contrasting the flavors from the different casks to give us this full flavor that we want.
Yeah, I think if you really get that just right over from the States, first fill virgin oak, heavy toast, that sounds like a really sweet cask.
And the virgin oak casks will give you a spiciness at the end. They will give you a dryness and a spiciness. With Tennessee whiskey production or bourbon production, virgin oak casks, there's a sweetness in a bourbon or in a Tennessee whiskey. But with Irish whiskey in the same cask that's never been filled before, because it's a different spirit and it's not made from over 50% corn or maize, it's not as sweet as opposed to fruity, and therefore bourbons can come across as sweet, whereas our new make whiskey in a virgin oak cask has some sweetness. It has loads of vanilla and these other notes, but it has this spiciness and dryness at the end because it's a different spirit going into these casks. And we play on that as well. So when we taste the blend, we'll actually discuss then the impact of the 3 different casks on giving us that complex flavour that we're building.
Okay, I think that's next up, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the triple cask. You can get that on whisky.de or Whisky.com if you live in the Netherlands or Belgium or Germany and Austria and Switzerland. So that's really like the main product that you just told us with the 3 different kind of casks. But it's is it a single malt or what is it?
No, it's in our future we're maturing them. We will have single malt and single pot still. This is a blended whiskey. Oh, okay. So it is malt whiskey blended with grain whiskey. So what we have here is it's a blend. It's at 40% alcohol. It's available in duty free across the world. It's available in across Europe. It's available in the US. It's available in the UK. So it's widely available. And what we've done here is we've taken the new make grain whiskey, the new make malt whiskey, and they have been matured across 3 different barrel types in parallel. So it's not as if we take our whiskey, put it into one barrel, then after 6 months we move it to the next. These are in for at least 2 years, and all of the new make whiskey we're making now goes straight into its designated cask, and it will spend all of its life in that cask before we use it. So is triple casking a marketing gimmick, or is it meaningful? For us, we've actually shown that if we look at the components in each of the 3 casks, they're completely different whiskies. And we actually play one whiskey or one cask type against another to give us these contrasting flavours.
I like it. It's you mean your new make was also very sweet. This is very, very sweet and very, very pleasant. It feels very creamy, very caramelly, but also has a bit of I don't know. It has a few. I'm not quite sure if it's berries or chocolate or I don't know, something. It reminds me of some sweets.
One of the original hopes for the Conyngham family as they started to design what they would like about their distillery was to create a whiskey that was something to enjoy, full of flavour. You could have it in a glass like we're having. You could have it with ice. You could have it with a cocktail. So we delivered on that in terms of giving a full, pleasant, enjoyable flavour. So there's a few things happening here. If we look at the casks that we use, so we have virgin oak casks. So we know that is contributing a lot of vanilla. So you're talking about these sweets or maybe toffee notes. You're getting some vanilla impression in there.
In the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I got tons of vanilla in the nose because I sipped something.
Yeah.
But in the nose, it wasn't, the first nose, it wasn't that vanilla, but more of caramel. Now I have it vanilla. It's like a pudding. Very, very pleasant, very, very gentle. And I would say, it feels a little bit like a liqueur, but no sugar added. It's very
forbidden.
yeah, very sweet and very gentle, and I like it. You do have a bit of a fruitiness going on as well, and in the background a little bit maltiness and a little bit of that spiciness coming through. But just very gentle.
There's a lot happening, So we have vanilla, which is quite pronounced, and that's coming from predominantly from our virgin oak casks. We also have a dryness and spiciness coming from those same casks as well, but it doesn't feel dry and spicy, because what we have in there as well is we have the sherry butts that we have made for us in a family bodega in Spain, and we're getting heavy Christmas spice, Christmas cake, Christmas pudding. So we're getting figs, raisins. So there's not just that we tasted these estery fruity notes from our yeast, and they've done a great job, but now we have an overlay of these Christmas dried fruits, and that's then starting to add more dimensions to the whiskey.
With the sherry notes, the Christmas notes, and the dried fruits notes, that was for me the second sip. The first sip was a lot of like bourbon style character or Tennessee whiskey style character, very fruity and very fruity, very sweet. And now with every sip, it just adds up to that Christmas spiciness. You still when you sip, you have that sweetness and that creaminess inside there, but it adds up to that Christmas spiciness.
Are you finding as well that there's a long finish, that you're here now and you're going, I can still taste it? I can still taste it.
It's long as in it changes a little bit. You have the sweetness, that fades off, but that spiciness keeps on going.
So there is a Christmas spice element coming from the sherry butts as well, and then the glue that holds the whole flavour profile together is the ex Jack Daniel's seasoned casks as well. So if we tasted that on its own, you would get banana flavour, you would get caramel, you would get malt, but you'd also get this incredible smoothness. And that smoothness acts as sort of a link between the flavour impressions from the virgin oak casks and also from the sherry butts. If we, say, dialed up the sherry butts higher, some people like sherry finish, I particularly do myself, it can get very sweet. You lose some of the spiciness and dryness, and it can maybe appear a little bit heavier as well. So we put a lot of work into balancing out the contrasting flavours to making sure that we could build complexity in the flavour of the whiskey, but not have it too much one way or too much the other way. And for us, we feel we've succeeded in that with the 3 different casks that we're using.
Now that you mention it, now I find the candy that I associated it with. I think it was kind of, I'm not quite sure how they were called, but they were banana candy.
Right. So vanilla and banana would be two very predominant, and then you would have the sort of dried fruits, the raisins, the sort of winter seasonal sort of.
But they take a bit of time until the banana and the vanilla wears down.
So I hope you'd agree that in trying to build a whiskey that was enjoyable on its own, and full of flavour, that we've crammed a lot of flavour into this whiskey. Part of that is the new makes that we're producing. We want to be brave and create as full of flavoured new make whiskey as we can. But the 3 different casks that we're using, each of them has a specific purpose. And whereas, as Alex Conyngham himself would say, we're like a music mixing desk. We can dial up one and dial down another because of the way that we can blend. Because they're all matured separately, we can actually dial up some and dial down others as well. And we've been successful in that in some of our other, say, our wood series with a sherry finish. It would have been very easy to say, oh, just go all sherry, that's the answer. But actually what we did was we did that and said, well, yeah, that's really nice, but we think we can do better. So we still maintained the triple cask, dialed up the sherry, dialed down the other 2, and actually one of the took us 16 variations to do that. The last one we did, then we actually dialed back up some of the virgin oak because we missed some of the spice and the vanilla to play off against the heavy sherry notes as well. And it worked well for us. So triple casking for us is really, really important to give us the full flavour, but also as we look at it, say if our pot still is coming down the road, we have that in 3 separate casks. We don't really know what the recipe is that we're going to use because we want to see how it matures, but because we have stocks in the 3 different casks, we can just dial them up and down in the blending stage and decide that's exactly what we want. Let's go. Exciting times ahead.
Yeah, I see. But a little bit look in the background. You have a huge historic building here.
Yeah.
So how is it to work in such a historic buildings with, like, I don't know, there are rules to like what you can build and what you can change and stuff. Is that like hefty? Or
there are lots of rules, yeah. So in building, the distillery was built when I came, so I feel lucky that I maybe missed some of that. But Alan, as he was building the distillery here, each of the buildings are protected. So you can't. It is breaking the law if you damage a building that's a protected building. So Alan had the roof off when he was putting in the pot stills. So the building is quite narrow, and there are ancient wooden rafters there as well. So if he hit the stills off the wall, it would damage the new stills, but also it would be a criminal offence because he's damaging the wall. So he had to take the roof off, slide in the vessels, drop them down, and then move them across without breaking any of the gaps in the wooden rafters. So tricky. So what we will find is then in running the distillery now, later as we've produced a lot of whiskey at this stage, the distillery is quite spread out. So we have old courtyard stone buildings. You've had a chance to walk around those earlier on today. Yeah. It's not compact, so we get lots of steps in. We have lots of stairs, lots of ladders, and but it's fantastic. And when you come in the morning, sometimes if you're feeling, I have a lot of work to do, you look around, you look at the castle, you look at the river, and you go, aren't we lucky to be working in a place like this?
Yeah, it looks really, really beautiful. Yeah. But I think the construction side is, with historic buildings, is always a bit of a tough time. I mean, I've seen the wooden beams and how you needed to change that, and some repairs, and some look a little bit too old for my touch.
Like say in the courtyard we're looking out on now, most of the roof here was gone. And there was trees growing up through some of these buildings as well. Like, that's how dilapidated they were. So again, it was restore it, make sure everything was okay. But when we went to find then roofing tiles to put on, you had to get traditional roofing tiles. You couldn't go to your local hardware shop and say, give me a couple of tons of those. They had to be in the traditional style. Hard to find, expensive, and then you need stonemasons and specialists to install them. But when we look around now, and as we run the distillery, it's great. It's a special place to work.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit, it has a bit of a touch of museum. And also with the red doors, it's a bit of a Glendronach going on.
Yeah, well, and that colour is a traditional Conyngham family colour as well, and that's why they're there. It's part of their sort of historic emblems and that, so that would be an important colour.
But the Conyngham family, they originated from Scotland?
From Scotland, yeah.
But do they see themselves Irish, right?
Oh, you talk to Alex or Henry, they're Irish.
They're Irish.
Absolutely. I don't get into that debate. But actually, their heritage is originally Scottish. They would have moved into Donegal, and they would have had an estate up there, and then they moved to here. And effectively, they were rewarded, and they were able to occupy a castle as impressive as this because of their bravery towards the monarchy in the UK. They basically, their ancestors risked their lives to protect the king who was fleeing from oppression. So there's some good stories there about literally how they put their own lives on the line to save the king who was in trouble at the time. When he came back successful after winning the final conflict, he rewarded them and their bravery, and that's how we have this fabulous estate here today.
Nice.
So, but no, very much Irish, and certainly well regarded in the community. They would have been many generations of families that would have worked here. I mean, the estate is effectively a farming enterprise as well, so they would have had lots of farm labourers, carpenters, blacksmiths, and all the harvests and the ploughing and the natural cycle.
Yeah,
so a long history here.
These big buildings with 2 courtyards, I think that was like a little city. with like everybody inside, like stables, as you said, blacksmith and all of that.
Oh yeah, and they would have had gardens as well to feed the family, to produce, and they would have had some exotic fruits as well. We saw the lovely walled gardens earlier on. They would have had exotic fruits that weren't available in Ireland, but it was just because the walled gardens were built to be sheltered. Trees were close to the walls, facing the sun, so they were kind of warmer and protected. So there was fruits and vegetables grown here that were not widespread in Ireland, because that was the passion that they had for growing things and getting the best out of the land of the Boyne Valley.
Okay, and I think during summertime a lot of visitors come here.
Oh yeah. Barry would be very busy during the summer, where there are visitors. Sometimes they want to do a tour. Some people want to tour and learn about whiskey. Some people want to tour and learn about the buildings and the castles and the concerts.
So you're like a museum.
Yeah, it's kind of like a museum, and sometimes you'll find couples or families, and some are very interested in whiskey, and some are really more interested in what goes on in the castle and what goes on, how is this built and how long is it.
And the last one that we're going to have, that is only for the tourists that actually do come here.
This is a surprise, and I hope you enjoy it. This whiskey is effectively the blended whiskey,
like the last one we
tasted, but it is at cask strength, so it is at 63.2% alcohol.
Okay, that's a good cask strength.
This is like pretty strong, but actually we found this surprising in that we put a lot of work into getting the blend as balanced and as full flavoured as we could. It works really well at 40% alcohol. Let me know what you think at 63%.
What is your barreling strength? Is that 63.5 or is it higher?
Yeah, we would be, for everything we're making now, we would be at 63.5% for our malt and our pot still. For our grain, we would go up to 68%. But some of the grain here would have been originally at 70%. So therefore, as it is aged, then this all combined is 63.
Okay, because 63 as a cask strength don't have every day.
No. So enjoy.
Oh, this is
a
different kind of candy.
But it's not.
This is different kind of candy. This is like roasted not almonds. It sounds like, a Christmas fair when you have that truck with the roasted nuts.
Oh yes.
That has a bit of a flavor like that, but bananas.
There is a sweetness of banana. There's almost less direct fruity notes.
Yeah.
You can add some water to this, but taste it
but
as it is.
It has a bit of a crunchy note to it.
Yeah.
Roasted crunchy note, something crunchy, roasty. Cheers.
Cheers.
But it works well with 63. I mean, I didn't have that much, but it didn't really burn me.
No. And it lasts and lasts and lasts, yeah.
Creamy sweet, definitely. Very wholesome, triple
Can
distilled.
you get a sense of the cask wood itself? There's almost
there's more
char and a wood and almost like a cavern where you would maybe have wine casks maturing or sherry casks maturing. You can really get the sense of wood and char there.
It feels a little bit drier.
And that's because of the higher alcohol.
Like a little bit of a tannin or oaky note to it. A little bit of a cellar note to it, yeah. But without the, usually when you have like, say, cellar, usually you have a smoky note. This is minus that.
The sherry impression really comes to the fore at this strength as well.
Yeah,
there's these heavy fruity notes in there as well. So, whilst it's the same whiskey, the flavour profile, because the alcohol is higher, is quite different. But would you say that it is a balanced flavour or a full complex flavour still? We were really impressed when we started to look at this to say, actually, people might be interested in this, rather than this is something then that we'll reduce down to our blend.
I do like it. It's not like you have it in your mouth and there's like everything there. It's more of a I explain it like a roller coaster whiskey, where you start off with your sweetness and then here comes this and here comes this. So there is everything in it, but not all at once.
That's a good expression. I'm going to keep that one. Yeah. And it lasts, and you're getting different impressions as time goes on. Yeah.
Again, like second sip, a little bit different than the first sip. So again, with the roller coaster, it rides on. Just rides on.
And we have had many visitors through here with Barry, and they would be asking, how should we drink this? Is it a cocktail? Is this? And certainly we wouldn't put this in a cocktail. You could use the blend and it's perfect for cocktails. But I've had people coming to me afterwards saying, I normally drink whiskey with water or with ice or in a cocktail, and you have me sipping this cask strength whiskey. Why is it so smooth? Why is it so nice? They're really having tiny sips of it, but we really feel that the work we've put into selecting the right barrels, getting the right balance between the different flavors, the contrasting flavors in the barrels, is working, and that ends up being a very, very enjoyable whiskey as it is on its own. You can certainly use that in cocktails, and if you wanted to boost that sort of a whiskey flavour that you want in there. But for us, the fact that this is so enjoyable as it stands, obviously with respect because it's such a strong whiskey, but it is really enjoyable, and for us that is endorsing that the balance we have between the three casks is working really, really well.
Yeah, I like it. The thing is, could you water it down to the other one? So
it'll be exactly the other one if you water it down. I would have tears running down my eyes if you did that.
I mean, it's easier for people to you could probably make one of these bottles into two of these if you buy it here at the distillery, and you're allowed to have one bottle fly home with you.
Yeah. But what I might suggest is though that if you so you're after tasting that and enjoying that, if you add a small drop of water to that, so it's somewhere between this and this, you will get different flavors coming through, and some of the fruity notes will start to rise up and escape from the liquid also.
Yeah, that's the beauty about the cask strength. You can play around with that. If you have at least a spoon or a pipette, then you can play around with it, and you can find out a lot more about that whiskey than just that one bottle.
Absolutely, yeah. And so what we do find is that people will, like when Barry will bring people around on tour, we won't normally have the new makes because that's for special visitors like yourself, but we would have the two whiskies here, and people will taste that, and then some people will go straight to the shop and say, can I have the special please? And it's simply because they've been surprised by it, they've been enjoying it, and they realise, well, okay, I can cut it down to the normal strength if I want to. This is the only place that we actually sell it, and that may change in the future because we've had a lot of people interested in this. But it's a really enjoyable whiskey, even though it's cask strength. And what we like is a really long finish, but because of the work we've put into maturing it in cask, there isn't a long burn at the end with younger whiskies or whiskies matured in less new casks or less impressive casks, that there can be a burn and a heat at the very end that is maybe not so enjoyable. Whereas the cask we've selected certainly deliver for us. And so we have Jack Daniel's seasoned cask, we have the virgin oak cask made specifically for Slane, and then the sherry butts we actually order those from a family bodega in Spain. It takes us 2 years to get them. So we order them today. They will make them within a month, and then they will allow them to sit with sherry in them for 2 years. That's our normal order. So when we have to know 2 years in advance, I want this many containers of casks coming over. And like Jack Daniel's, we will order casks in and say, okay, can I have casks over here the next month? We will only bring in what we need, we will use them fresh, and then we'll get some more again. So if you are in the general market and you're saying, okay, sherry butts, I'm interested in those, you need to be sure how fresh are they, where have they come from, are they first use, are they second use, whereas we have that sort of supply chain questions all resolved, and the importance of the barrels comes through for us when we taste these whiskies, and we can really see. And what's exciting for us is we're looking at these and we're saying, that's a nice flavour and it's got this and that. We have the pot still and the single grain maturing in casks, and it's going to be like Christmas time all over again when we start looking at, okay, we're going to launch next year. This is the flavour profile. What are these like? How are these maturing? and we don't know what the final recipe is.
Yeah.
That's what makes it exciting
So,
as a distiller.
A little bit look out in the future, so we can watch out for more core range, more different kind of launches over the next years.
Yeah. Certainly, as our single malt is with probably ready to go within the next year or two. Our pot still is also, and then the single grain is going to be an interesting one because we're the only distillery in Ireland making single grain whiskey from 100% barley. We know it's not a normal grain whiskey. It's got pot still character. It's got some spice and heat in there as well. So we certainly have new products. We're not going to release a whole load together. It will confuse the market. But we really need to do something with pot still. We really need to do something with single malt. And then it'll take probably a little bit longer to mature the grain. But we expect then some good response from the grain. And remember, everything we're making in New Make is in 3 different casks. So if we have 3 different whiskies, we actually have 9 different whiskies in a matrix. And who's to say we won't do malt pot still blends, or we won't do our own grain and pot still, or our own grain and malt as well. So we have options there, and we don't know today what the answer is, but we're looking forward to finding out.
Yeah, so basically this was like this bottle, same bottle in cask strength, so we were still like, oh, they have a bit of a smaller range, but I guess we'll see a lot of rise.
We're on a journey, and we're starting that journey.
Yeah,
so
with whiskey it's always a bit more time. There's always a bit more time. And if you're not ready, then it's not ready, then you have to wait.
No. And as you speak about time, for distilling, it is a long time journey. And we spoke earlier on about the trees that are planted on the estate. We have 10,000 oak trees. They will be 40 or 50 years old before we harvest them to make casks, to make whiskey in the future. So your generations and my generations down the road will be discussing, these casks were made in whatever year it is in the future. So whiskey is a long-term, lifetime vision, and it actually goes to the next generation and the next generation. And that's nice too. You feel like you're leaving something for somebody else to look after when you're not there.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling. So that's what we get. The other ones get, the next generation gets the good stuff.
Well, the current stuff isn't too bad.
Yeah, it isn't bad either.
Yeah.
So I think that was it. Thank you very much for having us here.
Ben, it's been a real pleasure, and thanks for coming to see us.
It was really lovely. And thank you very much for watching. And if you like this video, then please feel free to share it with your friends, and see you next time.